Hi, I'm Rich Telford, team captain of Sacramento Excessive. I also own a field and a store. We're at the paintball field taking a look at the new JT CO2 tank. Honestly, the CO2 tanks have not changed much over the last 20 years, but this is truly an innovative product. It's got 3 features that are completely different than any other CO2 tank. Number 1, it's got the integrated valve technology system, which keeps your tank from accidentally separating. That's a huge safety feature. Probably the most important thing on the tank. The second safety feature is the burst disc that we have here on the side. That allows the tank to blow off pressure if it builds up too high. So again, that's a real cool safety feature. I think the coolest thing on the tank though is the indicator on the side. As the CO2 level goes up, it indicates how much CO2 you got in the tank. So it's cool because you don't have to run out during the game, but you also don't have to waste your money filling up a tank that's already 3/4 of the way full. We're going to take a little closer look at the IVT, the integrated valve technology system. Focusing on the key points, which is lack of valve separation. So this is a 2-piece component. You've got the top bonnet, which is theoretically the piece that's going to screw into the gun. So if worst case scenario, the bonnet got stuck in the gun, and sometimes that happens, if that happened, when you unscrew the tank, you would unscrew the tank from the bonnet, but that would be okay because the CO2 couldn't escape the tank because of the internal valve. So this used to be the valve on CO2 tanks, and it is the valve on standard CO2 tanks, but in our CO2 tank we have the valve seated inside the bottle, so there's no way for the CO2 to escape with the valve still in there. So again, it's a 2-piece component, the bonnet and the internal valve, the bottle and the valve screw onto the bonnet screws into the gun. So worst case scenario, if you did pull the tank off the bonnet, the CO2 would still be trapped in there and you'd still be safe. Let me tell you a little bit about the burst disc inside of the tank here. The burst disc inside the tank here is there for one reason, and that reason is for safety. There's 2 things that can happen in a tank. One, you can overfill the tank, or even if you have a low fill and the tank gets really hot, the pressure builds up in the CO2, and instead of the bottle expanding or the valve going, the burst disc just pops off. And when that happens, it's a little bit scary, but it's pretty safe actually. All the CO2 rushes out of the holes, the tank is drained, so it's very safe. When that happens, you have to replace the burst disc. These aren't easily replaceable. You simply thread them out and thread them back in. It's a really inexpensive part to replace, but it's a great safety feature. Safety's cool, don't get me wrong, but the thing I like about this tank is the fill indicator on the side of it. You can hear the little magnetic ball rolling around in there. Like, I don't know why they didn't do this like 20 years ago, but this is the coolest thing ever. As you put the CO2 in, the ball floats. As the ball floats, the magnet rolls across the indicator and strip and tells you exactly how much CO2 you have in the tank. Now, if it gets over 90 degrees or under 40 degrees, it doesn't operate so well, but in between that 40 and 90 degrees, it operates perfectly. If you shake, rattle, and roll it, and you can tell it's empty, but if it's 3/4 way full, you swirl around a little bit of a circle. As the magnet comes across the filler strip, you know exactly how much CO2 you have. So no excuses on the field. You can't say, oh, I didn't know I had any CO2, I ran out early. As a player and a field operator, it saves you a ton of cash, because obviously you don't have to fill up that tank over and over again when you have those 3/4 fills. I shouldn't have to tell you guys this, but I've been with JT almost since the very beginning of the company. They've come out with legendary products in the past, and this is another great example of that. This tank has tons of new technology in it, like the integrated valve technology, the burst disc, and the fill indicator. Those 3 design features are what separates JT and keeps them ahead of everybody else when it comes to safety and innovation.